Hello everyone, this presentation will be on measles. The slides are made by the Indian Academy of Pediatrics and are available online as a part of the IAP UG teaching module 2015-16. A brief introduction about measles. It is the disease which is commonly an ARI, that is an acute respiratory illness, and was responsible for the largest amount of under 5 mortality until a good amount of vaccination and efforts did catch up, and as a result of that, this under 5 mortality burden has substantially come down in the recent years. Now, coming to the epidemiology of the virus, the measles virus is an RNA virus belonging to Morbilli genus and belonging to Paramyxoviridae family. Humans are an exclusive reservoir for the measles virus, and it characteristically spreads by the droplet. Now, coming to the infectivity period, measles is a differential diagnosis for fever with rash, and this is infectious for 4 days prior to the onset of rash and 5 days after the onset of rash. Characteristically, it's seen in the age group of 6 months to 5 years in children with a secondary attack rate of 90%. If you consider the incubation period of the disease as such, it is 8 to 12 days. And if we consider the prodromal phase, it is characterized by 3 C's, namely cough, coryza, and conjunctivitis, along with the presence of fever. Now, when I say the term measles, it is almost universal in all our minds that we recollect the term Koplik spots. Now, Koplik spots are characteristically seen pathonomically on day 2 of exanthem. And if you move on to the eruptive phase, the rash appears on the 4th day of the illness. So, when we do have the differential diagnosis for fever with rash, we characteristically remember that day 4 rash is measles, and day 1 of fever and day 4 of rash is characteristic and typical of measles alone. Now, the nature of this rash is confluent, erythematous in nature, and is macular, and it typically disappears within 4 to 5 days with a brawny desquamation in nature. The rash, though it begins in the face, it spreads downwards. So, a simple diagrammatic way to recollect it, the rash will begin in the face and will subsequently move downwards. Just to lighten up and to ensure that the memory is well established as far as the rash is concerned, I'm sure all of us have seen this episode of Tom and Jerry where they end up playing around with each other. But if you do recollect this episode, the rashes did begin over the face and gradually did spread everywhere before both of them ended up in quarantine. Now, with that, just on a lighter note, we'll come back to the subject as such. So, coming back to the actual disease pathogenesis, we have the incubation period followed by the disease process. So, like I mentioned, the incubation period does last for 5 to 10 days. 5 to 8 days, I'm sorry. So, 5 to 8 days is where this incubation period is there. This is also the subclinical phase. Now, in the subclinical phase, there is no signs, no symptoms, and the presence of fever begins only on day 0 of the illness. So, from day 0 onwards, the illness does begin and the fever does gradually rise. Now, conjunctivitis, coryza, and cough all can begin on day 0, but the Koplik spots characteristically begin on day 2. The fever will continuously rise up to day 4, reach a stagnation, and then will subsequently come down. Conjunctivitis will last generally for a week. As with coryza, cough can last for up to 10 days. But the exanthem in the rash will begin by day 4, and from day 4 it can last up to 14 days, can even last up to 21 days also. Now, what I'm going to mark in blue will be the infectivity period for the rash. Now, we said that it was 4 days prior and 5 days after. So, what I'm marking in blue is the infective time, whereas the rash is where the red is what you see as the rash as such, what I'm marking in R. So, with that we can understand about how the infectivity of the measles is because of the rash. And this image shows in a person how the rash is erythematous, confluent, and blanches on giving pressure over the face and the neck too. Now, coming to the different variants of measles, it is classified into modified, atypical, and hemorrhagic. In modified measles, it generally occurs because of partially immune children where they have received a single shot but have not received the complete booster. And it is generally present as a milder illness and does not often warrant any further investigation or treatment. Now, atypical measles is seen in the recipients of those who got a kill vaccine, and generally it is of a more severe form and also will manifest with presence of hepatosplenomegaly, but it's important to note that this is not contagious. Whereas hemorrhagic measles is the most severe manifestation, which is seen in high fever, bleeding and convulsions as well. Now, coming to the complications of measles, like I mentioned, it is an acute respiratory illness, as a result of which bulk of the complications are seen in the respiratory tract. The respiratory tract does have otitis media as secondary complications, along with lymphadenitis, laryngitis, laryngotracheitis as well. Measles can also progress into a pneumonia of a mild to moderate, even a severe state, and can also result in bronchopneumonia, and measles itself can be a risk factor for increased preponderance of tuberculosis. Now, the most dreaded complication would be subacute sclerosing panencephalitis. Now, this is seen as a complication of measles, as a result of which there is developmental regression. Now, I'm highlighting this separately in a different color because undoubtedly the most dreaded complication is developmental regression due to subacute sclerosing panencephalitis. And other systemic complications include persistent diarrhea and appendicitis for the digestive system, and malnutrition. Children are itself more prone, so PEM as well as xerophthalmia is more likely to be seen in a child with measles in itself. Now, the diagnosis of measles comprises of two parts. One is a clinical entity and one is a serological. The clinical entity is based upon the history, where you have fever and the 3 C's: cough, coryza and conjunctivitis, all of which with the typical presence of rash and Koplik spots as well. So based on this clinical entity itself, you can diagnose measles and make a diagnosis. But if you want confirmatory diagnosis for the sake of documentation, you can do the IgM antibody based on real-time PCR on a serology testing. Now, the differential diagnosis, of course, for measles include the following, which can be as simple as a drug rash. Now, a drug rash will have a history of a prior drug intake. Apart from that, you will also have other conditions like roseola infantum, where the fever subsides after the rash appears. Whereas if you recollect in the measles chart, though the rash does appear by day 4, the fever will still persist. So that is the difference between roseola infantum and measles. Apart from that, you can also have miliaria and infectious mononucleosis along with rubella. Now, the presence of rubella is a mild discrete rash, and it will not be as severe as that of measles. Now, if you come to the treatment as such, it's more of symptomatic management. There is no specific drug for the treatment of measles per se. And by symptomatic treatment, I mean antipyretics. The antipyretics do help in the form of paracetamol. Paracetamol is given at the dosage of 15 mg per kg per dose. So paracetamol ensures that the antipyretic action is maintained to reduce the fever and to ensure comfort. Apart from that, a cough suppressant might also be given as indicated to ensure that the child is quite comfortable. And what is important is to maintain adequate hygiene, and apart from hygiene, to ensure that the household contacts are not affected. If there are children associated with the child, other siblings, they are to be given immunoglobulins if they are unvaccinated. If vaccinated, then there is no harm, just ensure distancing is maintained. Apart from the supportive therapy, good nutrition and hydration status of the child is to be maintained, and vitamin A supplementation is to be done for all children who are diagnosed with measles or suspect measles. Now, hospitalization is required for complicated measles. By complicated measles, I refer to any child having respiratory distress. So one indication of hospitalization is respiratory distress, inability to take feeds, or if any comorbid condition is there for the child, such as febrile seizures, etc., where it requires other monitoring as well, or if the child is having any congenital condition like congenital heart disease and all. Now, prognosis wise, it is a self-limiting disease, and convalescence is prolonged with respiratory diseases. But once it goes into a stage of measles encephalopathy or SSP, the mortality rate is quite high, and it reaches 30% at that time. It is because of this complication as such that the mortality rate of measles and the case fatality rate was high, but it has come down with good efforts of vaccination. Now, measles is a live vaccine which is giving a good amount of immunity. Now, we will consider the vaccination under the two ways in which it is given. One under the National Immunization Schedule and one under the IAP schedule here in India. Under the National Immunization Schedule, it is given as measles and rubella conjoint, that is MR vaccine. And under the IAP schedule, it is given as MMR, that is measles, mumps and rubella. Now, the measles rubella was introduced recently into the NIS, and it is given first dose at 9 months, followed by the second dose at 15 months. Under the IAP schedule, the first dose is given at 9 months and the second dose is given at 15 to 18 months. Subsequently, a booster is also given under the IAP schedule at 4 to 6 years. So under the NIS schedule, there are 2 doses, and under the IAP schedule, 1 primary dose followed by 1 booster and a second booster also. Now, if you do understand about the measles vaccine in a bit more of detail, it is given subcutaneously in the form of the route. So the route of vaccination is subcutaneous, and generally the site of giving it is the right upper arm. Now, there are certain adverse reactions which are associated with the MR vaccine, though it is quite rare. The adverse effects of this include local pain, tenderness at the site of injection, as well as a specific adverse reaction is febrile seizures associated with the MMR-V strain if given in less than 2-year-old. Now, previously what used to be given was a plain measles vaccine, and the plain measles vaccine had a high incidence of fever, but of course post-vaccination fevers are quite common and it requires merely assurance. Now, the only contraindications for this vaccination are immunosuppression, malignancies, symptomatic HIV, or if a recent immunoglobulin was administered to the child. But despite all the adverse reactions, the target of the government under Mission Indradhanush is to ensure 100% coverage of MR, that is 100% coverage of measles and rubella, to ensure that with 100% vaccination status attained, the burden of the ARI substantially does come down. And though we do talk about adverse reactions in terms of vaccines, the adverse reactions generally is less than 0.1 and maybe even to 0.05% depending on the different vaccines. So though we do theoretically talk about adverse reactions, it is very safe to ensure that vaccination is given for your child. On that note, I thank you for listening to this presentation, and I thank the Indian Academy of Pediatrics for their efforts in ensuring that the vaccination program is reached out to all corners of the country. If you are a parent of a child who is tuning into this presentation, I'm sure you would have got some awareness with regard to measles, and I hope that you ensure that your child is completely vaccinated against this, as well as completely vaccinated against all conditions also. If you are a medical student who tuned in, I hope this helped in ensuring that some basic concepts were clear about measles and you have better understood about the pathophysiology and the clinical presentation. Thank you once again for listening to the presentation, and hope you tune in to the next one.